Hey, this is Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, and you are listening to the Ghost Host Sophia Temperilli on liveparanormal.com.
Today we welcome renowned broadcaster and Travel Channel's The Holzer Files investigative host Dave Schrader, televised co-paranormal researcher and tech investigator Shane Pittman, and psychic medium Cindy Kaza. Be sure and watch Season 2 of The Holzer Files premiering Thursday, October 29th on the Channel, 10 p.m. Eastern. I want to thank the Travel Channel for booking these guests today and having them on. Everyone visit Twitter at the Travel Channel, at Darkness Radio, at Starring Shane, at Medium Cindy Kaza, at Alexandra Holzer, and hashtag the Holzer Files. Let's welcome them into the show.
Yeah, good to be back with you. Thanks for having us on.
Congratulations on Season 2 of the Holzer Files. It's an amazing show, so I can't wait to see what you guys do this season.
Well,
we
can't
either.
Thank you so much. Yeah, for sure. And also, just to let you guys know, Cindy is in, if y'all didn't hear already. She just
Can you guys
sent a
hear
text
me?
saying,
Yes.
yeah, I can hear you. There we go.
Oh, good. Okay, sorry. Yeah, okay, good.
To start off, can you tell us what it was initially like for each of you when you first found out that the Holzer Files was greenlit on the Travel Channel?
Sure, I'll go first. This is Shane. Yeah, I was really excited about it because for a long time I've known Alexandra Holzer, even before the show, and I've heard about her father's work. I've heard about the Holzer method that he used on investigations. So whenever I found out that we had the opportunity to reopen and re-examine some of his case files that a lot of people haven't had the opportunity to check out yet, I was happy to do it, and it was a really exciting thing for me.
I was so excited to be asked to be the medium on this show because Hans Holzer really respects mediums. He has had a lot of respect for mediums. He looked at mediums as a really useful part of an investigation and an important part of an investigation. And it's also really exciting for me because I get to go in blind to all these locations and then see, a lot of the times how I'm getting the same thing that mediums from 40 or 50 years ago were getting. And so all around, it's just like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. And I'm so grateful to be a part of such a cool show with such a great team. So, yeah.
Excited. Yeah, I was just excited to get the opportunity to follow in the footsteps of, one of the forefathers of the paranormal, somebody that really helped make it mainstream and accessible to the masses with over 140 books and all of his TV shows and specials and interviews he's done. He really kind of was cutting edge and out there, making this something that didn't have to be hidden or talked about in whispers. People could accept that there's strange things going around us all the time.
And what is it like for you, Dave, going from meeting Alexandra Holzer about her father's legacy? Do you feel a certain sense of responsibility to show his work the way it is, or do you kind of want to bring it to a new light with the investigations you do?
I invited her to be a guest on our radio show, and she had her first book out, and Hans Holzer's final book were both printed at the same time. So she was able to set together the interview. So I interviewed her for an hour, then I interviewed Hans Holzer in what would be his final radio interview. And Alexandra and I remain friends. As a matter of fact, I just had on Facebook recently a memory pop up, and it was from 10 years ago. And it was, join this fan page for my good friend Dave Schrader. He's a great guy in the paranormal field, and the fan page was set up by Alexandra for me. So, I of course, being a part of the show, we want to make sure that we remain true to Holzer's method, to Holzer's passion for this field, but bring it into the 21st century and re-examine these cases with respect and see if we can help the families and the spirits that are involved in these cases and shed light on what their story is.
It's great that you were able to interview him on what was his last interview. I'm sure it was great to kind of hear his final thoughts on it publicly on the field.
Yeah, his final thoughts basically to me were, only use a good trance medium. The electronic equipment, throw it out the door. It's garbage. It's garbage. Just good transmedium. And he had a great point. And I address that because people listen to the radio show and they hear the old episode and they're like, dude, you're using equipment. Hans hated equipment. It wasn't that Hans hated equipment. You got to remember, he started 60 years ago. There was no equipment that was adapted for trying to communicate with the other side. There were Ouija boards and mediums. And that was about it. So he had kind of a distrust of this equipment until his death. But, he has since communicated with Alexandra through pieces of equipment. Here's all this, his bluster and hype for not liking it. And lo and behold, how does he make himself known to Alexandra? He comes through on ghost boxes and different pieces of equipment that way.
Yeah, it's amazing, just the way technology has progressed throughout the years. I can't imagine what it would have been like for him to just see all these new devices in the field. I can imagine the mistrust with it because technology is very hard to understand even for me. So the way they work and knowing how things actually get responses is very confusing. And to someone born during that time period where there wasn't any, I can see kind of the disconnect there.
Yeah, so like Dave was saying, 50, 60 years ago, there wasn't the type of equipment that we have today that would be able to test different things. Now we have equipment that could test our environment, let us know anything from barometric pressure to humidity in the air, energy changes in the air. In season 2, one exciting thing that I'm really happy to be able to show everybody is we're using some new equipment that has not been used on television before and rarely in any other, paranormal investigations. So there's a couple pieces of equipment that uses LiDAR technology and is able to map out a room and actually objects and shows you the depth and the distance that object is away from you, and it's recorded in real time. So if any of those objects that are on screen move, it'll let me know the distance changes and all of that stuff. It's just the equipment that we have now is leaps and bounds better than anything that was back then, and I'm just excited to be able to show you guys what we bring to the table in season 2.
Well, the equipment sounds amazing. When you get new equipment like this, Shane, is there a learning curve for you? How do you kind of figure out how to use technology like that?
Yeah, of course there's a learning curve. One thing that I do before I bring it on any cases that we're working on it is I try to learn the ins and outs of it and how it works before I even introduce it into the field, because it's important. If you don't have that knowledge going in, you may have a lot of false positives, things that you're thinking are paranormal that are not paranormal at all. So it's really important to really know the equipment that you're working with going in.
Definitely. And Cindy, what kind of started you off in the field? I know you're a psychic medium, but how did you initially discover you had that ability and learn to grow it?
Yeah, I've had this ability since I was really young. The first experience I remember having is around 10 years old, but having an experience and understanding an experience aren't really the same thing. And so it really took me years to step into this aspect of myself. It wasn't until my 20s that I decided, I need to figure this out because it's just getting stronger and it's not going away. And it was beginning to negatively impact my life because I'm an empath, so I was feeling so many things. I was having experiences with spirits, and I was trying to avoid all those experiences, which never really ends well. So, what happened was when I made that decision, I wound up confiding in somebody who had been in the field for a long time. And then I decided to study mediumship. And when I say study mediumship, I don't mean like anyone can go and just take a class and then they're a medium. It was more to understand what was happening to me and how mediumship works. So I spent several years studying in England at the Arthur Findlay College. I would fly out and study for a month and then come back, and I would go back and forth. So the style of training that I have is with the Spiritualist Church, and the Spiritualist Church has a really, really colorful history around mediumship, and so so I really started doing that. And then before Holzer Files happened, I spent about 7 years living out of a suitcase, traveling the U.S. doing live mediumship events, ironically in comedy clubs, which people are really confused. If you Google me, it says I'm a comedian, which I'm not. Just to clear the air, I'm not a comedian. I'm a comedian. That's my joke. But I just use the I just use the venues because they're great and the space is nice. So all of that kind of led here. And I always say the line luck is when preparation and opportunity meet, right? So I feel like I was able to come into this space after having a lot of years of experience, and I'm grateful for all of that.
For sure. And I know on the show you use automatic writing. At what point in kind of your learning process with mediumship did you start learning automatic writing? And what is the process for that like with you?
Yeah, I started automatic writing in 2007. So 13 years ago was my first experience with automatic writing. And for me, it was something that happened very naturally and very quickly. So once I learned about it and tried it, it was like the floodgates were open, and it was a little bit scary, to be honest with you, at first, because when I started doing it, there were so many spirits coming in, and it wasn't controlled, and it was crazy. And so for me, automatic writing, it's a light form of trance, right? It isn't trance like Ethel and Sybil that you see in Holzer Files. But what happens is I just allow the information to channel through my hand. So really, the spirits are channeling through me, and I'm not hearing something and then writing it down. As it's coming out, I'm seeing it in real time like everybody else is. So I'm just letting the spirit world basically use me as a tool to get the information out on paper. And it's an effective way to work because I'm not having to interpret what I'm seeing. Like with clairvoyance, I'll see an image of something, and then I have to feel into what is it that I'm seeing. Automatic writing, it is what it is. It's just there.
And Sophia, if I can mention, tapping into that same vein, Cindy brings something new to the season for season 2, where she will be using more of her artistic channeled abilities, and I don't want to give too much away about it, but it's really compelling, and she creates some really interesting evidence that we're able to connect with. So she takes the automatic writing and her abilities to kind of a new level for this season.
Well, I can't wait to see that in action. I do also have a follow-up to that, Cindy. I know with your experiences on season 1 of the Holzer Files, we are able to see a lot of the things you pick up, but not the way that you experience them when you're at the location. What was the most amazing or kind of serious incident that you had while filming season 1 of the Holzer Files?
Oh, that's a tough question because all of the cases were so different. I think Whaley House definitely was scary for me because of what happened to Dave. I mean, I was standing directly next to Dave when he was thrown against the wall, and initially I was like, oh, Dave fainted, oh my gosh, and when we replayed that evidence, I mean, it was, to me, alarming. I see things with my mind's eye, my clairvoyance, I feel, but to be right next to somebody and have a force of spirit, like, push them or shove them against the wall at that level was pretty scary. And the other thing that I tell people, which I think sometimes it surprises them, is, when I hear direct voice phenomenon, like when we're all hearing that at the same time, it startles me too, because I'm used to hearing spirit in my mind. It's the clairaudience. It's in my mind, right? I can hear them talking, but it isn't external normally. So when we have those moments where we're hearing the direct voice phenomenon, like we're all hearing it, it startles me too. So there were a couple of times that we had that in season 1, and I'm always amazed by the power of the spirit world and what's possible, because I think kind of anything's possible. And I feel very fortunate that I've been able to have these firsthand experiences and with other people, because it just further validates it that we're all having the experience together as a collective.
For
If
sure.
I can if I could add one thing real quick to that, first of all, the Whaley House was the first episode we filmed together. So to have something that dramatic happen kind of shook all of us to the core. But I think personally for Shane and I, one of the coolest, weirdest experiences, I kind of wish would have made it on the show, but we would have had to sacrifice another big element of the story. During the investigation into the ocean-born Mary case in first season, I introduced some items into the house that she did not like. And Shane and I were actually suddenly thrown into the psychic mix, if you will. Cindy had to kind of guide the two of us because things went crazy for us. Like, we're hearing things running around us. We could feel something moving. And Cindy was kind of guiding the two of us. Like I said, it was an intense, weird moment. But because there was nothing caught on film, it was just the two of us, our heads spinning in the same directions and feeling and seeing and hearing things. That really that was an amazing moment, because as a team, you're all in this together, and you've got a great leader with Cindy walking us through how to deal with what we're getting. And I remember saying, "Holy beep! How do you live like this, Cindy? This is too much. This is overwhelming." And she just had to try to calm Shane and I back down, because it was literally like the floodgates had opened, and the spirits were letting us know that they were there, not in a scary or intimidating way, but when you go from not really having that sensitivity to just the floodgates open, it was really, really overwhelming, and it was an exciting experience for me, but it left an indelible mark and really impressed me the way Cindy, although she was perplexed by what was going on, she didn't lose her cool. She was very Hans Holzer-esque in that moment of keeping us grounded and kind of like watching buddies have a bad trip, and she's the voice trying to keep us in line.
Yeah, and I remember the one major thing that I remember Cindy saying on that case, on that investigation, was whenever we were saying, "Cindy, how do you deal with this?" She's like, "Welcome to my life." And it's like, she's like, she hears this stuff all the time. And me and Dave just looked at each other. It's like, for somebody to have a gift like that, to be able to hear these things constantly and be able to differentiate and get the information she needs, is just, that's a gift in and of itself. It amazes us every time we watch her work.
Well, that's an incredible experience to have. I was just going to ask Dave, what was that like for you to be shoved? I know my whole family was shocked to see that air. There was so much force behind that. Have you ever felt anything like that before that or since?
Before that, no. I'd always kind of rolled my eyes at the people that are getting scratched or pushed or their hair pulled. How much of this is your overactive imagination? But we kind of dragged out of the darkness this spirit, not the spirit everybody expected, but the spirit that we found and revealed his story. And I was kind of challenging him, and he was trying to frighten us. I mean, I said, Juan Verdugo, are you the one that caused her to commit suicide? And the daughter, Violet Whaley had shot herself, and suddenly we hear what sounds like a shotgun go off in the house, and the three of us jumped.
Wow.
And I'm like, did we catch that? And we played it back, and we kept replaying the recording, and it was around the third time that's when the shove hit me, and I kind of felt like he was irritated, like, what more do you need from me? And he had been behind me at one point, was kind of laughing and mocking me. Cindy was warning. She's like, "Dave, he's going to sweep the knee, man. He's going to pull a Karate Kid on you. You got to be careful." And I was, okay, whatever, Cindy. And again, this was our first case together. telling me that a ghost is threatening me. Earlier in that episode, Cindy said he's going to muck with our cameras, and during their baseline, the camera shut down within like a minute or two of her saying that. That's one thing. I was like, okay, they can mess with electronics. I'm not going to worry about a ghost threatening to knock me down. And when it first happened, what a lot of viewers don't realize, you get this false sense of security because the screen is lit up for you because you're watching it in IR. To us, it's a very dark, dimly lit room. You can't see much at all. And when it happened, I had thought that maybe one of the camera guys coming in to get closer by us had tripped on the carpet and fell into me because it was that heavy. It was like a person with a camera pack slamming into me. And that's why when I first hit the ground, you see me kind of turn around looking, I was like, well, who the hell tripped, you know? You've hit the celebrity, call my lawyer, and there's nobody there, you know? And I'm saying that tongue-in-cheek, of course, but I spin around and there's nobody there. And then Shane had to help me off my feet because it took the wind out of me and shocked me, and I had to leave. I told them, guys, I got to go clear my head. I was unprepared for something like that, but it helped to keep me more mindful of the situation, and the spirits are not circus monkeys there to entertain us. You have to be cautious how you engage with them, and I wasn't showing respect, especially, you know, the one thing that people miss out on this is everybody kind of thinks of Juan Verdugo as this villain. You got to remember, he wasn't a villain to his people. He was trying to take back the land that had been taken from them. He was leading this kind of armada of natives and Hispanic people that felt that this area was wrongfully taken, and his punishment was to be taken to a grave, dug his own grave, and as he stood in front of it, he was shot and fell into the grave, and they buried him. And Mr. Whaley was one of those people. So this guy was really kind of the hero of his people and hero of his story, and he's being treated like the criminal in this case. And I think it was very refreshing for all of us. It would have been easy to jump to it being a demon or some dark force, but when you realize, no, this is just a frustrated, angry human whose life has been twisted, manipulated, and lied about. And I think we gave it a new perspective to examine. And we did warn the people at the Whaley House. You know, you've got kids that come through here and field trips. I don't know, you know, how forceful his spirit's going to be, but if you have trouble, we will come back. And that was an important beat for all of us, that we didn't want them to just feel like we poked a bear and then left. It was really important that they know that we'll be back if they need us.
Definitely.
Can I just add?
I think that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, so sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add something onto what Dave just shared, and it's important because as a medium, I believe like I work for not just people in the living, but people on the other side. But what I found over time is these spirits that a lot of people think are evil or angry. They're not necessarily bad people, right? They just want their story to be told. So when Dave was talking about Juan Verdugo, right, he wanted his side of the story to be heard because a lot of times, you know, these spirits, you know, they get vilified because one side of the story is the story that everybody is hearing. And so I think it's an important thing for any mediums listening to kind of look at spirits like with compassion from all sides because everybody has a story to tell. And I think it's the job of the medium to tell all of those stories, right?
Absolutely. I think that's the hardest part about history is just finding the factual information and looking at things from both sides because there is always two sides to a story, and sometimes that can just get one side picked up over time and used as a main story where the other person's side gets completely forgotten. And if I was dead, I mean, that would definitely kind of aggravate me a little bit.
Yeah, completely, right? And I always say, like, imagine being on the other side and nobody's listening to you for so many years. You keep trying to get your story or your point across and nobody's listening. And then you resort to these, you know, crazy things like scaring people or making things move. And you know, I don't think that's, you know, there are some spirits that aren't great spirits. There's evil out there, but I think there's just something to be said for allowing a spirit to speak his or her truth, you know?
And I know we have to take a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back with more questions.
This is author Alexandra Holzer, and you're listening to Ghost Host Sophia Temperilli.
Hi, this is Jeff Belanger, host of 30 Odd Minutes, founder of GhostVillage.com, and author of lots of your favorite paranormal books, and you're listening to the Ghost Host Sophia on LiveParanormal.com. Boo!
Hey, this is Zach Bagans from Ghost Adventures, and you are listening to the Ghost Host Sophia Temperilli on LiveParanormal.com.
Congratulations, Sophia. 9 years of broadcasting as the Ghost Host on LiveParanormal.com.
Well, first off, I want to thank you all again so much for coming on today.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So Shane, I know earlier in the show, Dave was talking about how dark it is, and I feel like for the audience, that really became apparent when they saw you in that spider-filled basement. What is it like for you going into these really dark places where you can't see what's in front of you, whether it's an object moving, a spider, or just a person standing in front of you?
Oh, well, initially I have some hesitation when I'm going in there, right? But to add to that point, you know, the audience, they're seeing just specific moments that we're in there, but sometimes we're in these dark rooms for hours at a time, right? So after a while, it gets really unnerving when you're hearing footsteps walking around you, you're hearing voices, and you don't know where they're coming from, and you're not able to see pretty much your hand in front of your face. It's very, very unnerving at times. And you guys see that. You see me in action a little bit whenever I get in those jumpy situations. But like I said, sometimes we're in there for quite a while, and it really gets to you after a while whenever you're hearing things and you don't know where they're coming from.
Do you think kind of that on-edge energy too that just fills a room when it's so dark and creepy like that kind of enhances the activity at the location?
You know, I absolutely do, and that's why a lot of times what I do is I try to open myself up personally whenever I'm going on these solo investigations that we do when we split up. I try to open myself up and just be open to the experience and kind of put myself in the position of any spirit that might be there, what they may be feeling, what they may be going through. And yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that those feelings can fuel the atmosphere for sure.
And I know you can't reveal too much about the upcoming season, but for each of you, did you have a favorite location that you might be able to mention, or just some of the locations that will be on the upcoming season?
Well, this is Dave. If I could say, listen, I'm excited twofold about this season. We get to hit some amazing historic locations, some places that have ties to literally America and how we progressed, how we're here. But we also get to look behind that story. And unfortunately, we learned some really horrible atrocities that took place, things that we knew about but didn't realize to what lengths some of these atrocities to Native Americans and other settlers were. So it's really very surprising to our whole crew in some instances. But there's one place, and I'm excited about this because you guys get a chance to do this on Halloween. And Sophia, I know that you and your dad are a part of the Dark Zone's investigation of the Queen Mary. And I have a long history with the Queen Mary, as you guys know. I love the Queen Mary. I've been on board it, I think, 15 times. 12 or 13 of those were leading live events. And to go back aboard that ship, our team was the first granted access to go in and do a full investigation. Every investigation that's ever taken place there has always been while there are employees and passengers and everything going on and visitors. So to be aboard that ship, it was quite disarming because it was so dead. There was just no human life aboard. There was, I think, 3 employees on the ship with our crew, and that's it. And it just felt off to me to have been there so many times and be a part of that life. And then we got a different side of the story, and we got a chance to examine different aspects and hear about what's been happening since the close down. They docked that ship in 1967, and it has been an active hub of both living and the dead activity there, as our good friend Peter James knew, and everything. So I know we caught some remarkable things for the Holzer files, and I can't wait to show the world what we're able to uncover and the stories that we're able to share. I'm excited to see what you guys uncover when you guys go in with all of the great people of the Dark Zone for Halloween this year. But we were so privileged. I think the whole team just privileged that we were the first to be allowed in there to do what we were doing. That was exciting, and I think the audience is really going to love what we uncover. And the beautiful part about visiting places like the Queen Mary, things shift constantly. There are so many spirits aboard that ship that really you can never tell every story, I don't think. There's always going to be more to uncover and more to explore. So it's exciting, and I can't wait to see what you guys find, and I can't wait for the world to find what we found aboard that ship, and it reignited a passion I'll mention on your show. It's been, I think, 8 years now. 2012 was the last event I held aboard the Queen Mary. I looked at Cindy and Shane, and I said, when the restrictions lift and we're healthy in this country again, I'm coming back, and we're going to do a Holzer Files event at the Queen Mary. And we're gonna reignite Darkness Radio events, and I really want it to be aboard the Queen Mary because I feel such an affinity to it, and looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, it was the first place we ever met Dave, and I can't wait to see what happens at the Queen Mary. Really quick before we get back to the other locations in the season, I'm just curious. I know you can't reveal too much about the episode, but Cindy, did you happen to feel a presence in the pool area?
Yes, I did feel a presence in the pool area, the Queen Mary. And just so the listeners know, I'd been on the Queen Mary only one time prior to our investigation, and I wasn't allowed to go into the pool area because it was closed down because it was unsafe. So it was really just such an amazing opportunity to be allowed to have full reign of the entire ship. And I'll tell you, my solo investigation on the Queen Mary, I think for me was one of the craziest solo investigations I've ever had on Holzer Files. And I can't give too much away, but what I will say is, I was working with some equipment, which I normally don't do really too much. The piece of equipment that I chose to work with, I usually don't work with on a solo investigation. And to be able to have it's like a call and response with the equipment was just it was mind blowing to me. So I'm really excited about this episode for sure.
And just to add to what Cindy was saying, in the pool area, you guys you'll have to stay tuned. We caught some really good evidence that you guys are really gonna enjoy. Some amazing evidence. This whole season has been. We've been really lucky. We've had a lot of great evidence captured, and really can't wait for people to check it out.
Yes, here. Come hold my hand now, Jackie. Let me help you. Okay, talk to me again. I don't want to go away unless you know we're here with love. I'm here to help you. Jackie! Talk to me again, Jackie. She's singing.
Yeah, I hear her.
She's singing. Can I sing with you? London Bridge is falling down, falling down. Okay. London Bridge is falling down. Can you sing with me? Sing with me. Hello? Sarah. Can you sing with me? I want to go back there. I want to go back. Listen. Yes! I want to look. I'm looking. Talk to me, Jackie. Let me help you. London Bridge is falling down. Falling down. Here?
Yeah, I'm not psychic like you are, Cindy, but I've seen a man in that pool area, and he is something else. So I can only imagine the great evidence you guys have captured, and I can't wait to see it air. But other than the Queen Mary, for Cindy and Shane, what locations that you can mention are you really excited for in this upcoming season?
So forgive me in advance. I cannot remember the title for our episodes. Dave might need to help me.
Mm-hmm.
But the season premiere, what's the season premiere, Dave? What's it called?
The Phantom Hand.
Yeah, the Phantom Hand. So the season premiere, for me, I thought was a very, very cool investigation because, we're jumping around between different spots, and to see how it all tied together was really, really fascinating for me. And again, it's such a hard question for me to answer because I think this season I love every single location that we were able to go to, and the stories are all so different. So it's hard for me to say, like, oh, what was my favorite? Because honestly, they're all my favorite because I just enjoyed this season so much. And we did go to a location in New York City. It was a museum, and I think that is probably the location where the evidence that we captured is probably the most mind-blowing paranormal evidence I've ever seen in my entire life. So that one will just go down in history for me.
And for you, Shane?
I agree with Cindy. I mean, all of these cases this season are phenomenal. I mean, it really set a bar even higher, even from season one, and I didn't even think that was possible, but it did. One of my favorite cases was at Franklin Castle. That was in Ohio as well. The reason for that is I had one of the most physical encounters I've ever had, one of the most intense physical encounters I've ever had on an investigation. And the evidence that we caught there is just mind-blowing. So I would have to say Franklin Castle for me. And the premiere episode, of course, is a good one too because it's an unconventional location. It's a location normally you don't see us do very much, and we got to do something a little unconventional, and that's a favorite of mine as well.
Yeah, in the premiere, I think it's the only time I've ever used the phrase, like, what did I say, guys? Like, I see a ghost tornado. It's like ghost-nado.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yes.
I was like, why am I seeing a tornado of ghosts? I don't understand what's happening, but I can't wait for people to see it. It's so cool.
Oh, yeah.
You should copyright that, Cindy. Next thing you know, there'll be a Ghostnado instead of a Sharknado.
See, right? Instead of Sharknado, it's Ghost-nado. I'm trademarking that right now.
So with all the amazing investigations that you've done on the show and beforehand, are there any locations that each of you just really would still love to go to or do a follow-up investigation on? We'll start with you, Dave.
I love historic places. I love places that have a rich tapestry of where we've been and where we're going, that kind of feel to it. This season we get to visit the conference house, which was integral to America in our history. We got to go to the Surratt Tavern. We got to go to the Merchant's House. We got to go to the Ship Chandlery out in Massachusetts. There's so many of those, and I love that aspect of the history. There's so many places I'd love to get to. I think we're all hoping for season 3 to get to visit Europe and see some of the remarkable places that Hans Holzer investigated over there. That's really kind of, I think, all of our hopes for season 3, to at least get 2 or 3 episodes in Europe. But I'd be pretty much open to investigate any place that we've been to, with the exception of Lydia's house that we did, because I feel like we answered her situation. She's only empowered herself and gotten stronger from season 1. So from her keeping in touch with Shane and I think her life is pretty well buttoned up and in a much better way than it was before we got there. So that's really the only case I don't think we'd ever need to go back to. But if God forbid something happened and she needs us back, I would be happy to head on out and see what we could do to help her.
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I agree.
It's great you guys were able to get that closure on that case. How about locations for you, Shane, and then Cindy?
Because the guys know this, but I think selfishly too, because I want to practice my German speaking. I lived in Germany for a year in high school, so it'd be so fun to be able to go to these German-speaking countries and investigate cases. And there's such obviously a really rich history in Europe. So I'm really hoping to be able to explore some of those locations, because there are so many of them, and I think it'll bring something a little bit different to season 3. But ultimately, I'm happy with wherever we go. I'm really rooting for like Jamaica or Hawaii if we start shooting in January, because
yes.
Because Cohasset, we filmed in Cohasset, Massachusetts. I think was that the first episode we filmed in season 2, and I think we almost got, it was so cold. So warm locations would be nice, but again, like, I'm happy to go wherever because I love our team and I love the show, and I think all of Hans's cases are probably pretty interesting.
Yeah, Cohasset was beautiful, but I was not prepared. This Southern boy was not prepared for that level of cold, okay? It's too cold if it's 50 degrees for me. So, yeah, Cohasset was very cold. But, yeah, I agree with Dave and Cindy. I would love to go to Europe and tackle some of those cases. I think it would give a fresh dynamic, a different dynamic to our show. But, yeah, I'd be willing to go anywhere. I kind of second what Cindy was saying is, we've got a great team. It's like a family, and I'd be happy to follow them anywhere.
I think, great.
Hans didn't just investigate claims of ghosts. He dealt with witches, werewolves, and UFOs. And I would love to tackle 1 or 2 cases a season where we can kind of go beyond the spiritual side of things and investigate some of these other interesting bits of our history and see where it takes us. So hopefully we can lock in some of those. And this season we do visit America's Stonehenge. We go to Mystery Hill, which was a case that perplexed Hans his entire career, and he went back, I think, 5 or 10 times to that location. So to get a chance to see something like that and be out in the elements, and we were battling rain and cold and the spirit realm out there, and we have a very special couple of guests that join us for that episode. So that one really stands out to me and is exciting as well.
Well, I know we're coming towards the end of the show, but I want to thank you all so much for coming on today. It's been great talking to you guys and learning more about season 2 of the Holzer Files.
Always
thank
a pleasure.
You so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
If I could mention, Sophia, before we go, again, our show, Darkness Radio, now launching into its 15th year. We're on with mid-roll. It's Stitcher Premium, and if any of your listeners are interested and would like, they can find us now on any platform you listen to your podcast on. Basically, is out there. Just look for Darkness Radio, and you'll find it. And for those that want to subscribe to the premium version without commercials, if they use the code Darkness Radio at checkout, they're going to get insanely deep discounts for their subscriptions. But Darkness Radio is continuing on. Cindy's got some exciting stuff. So does Shane going on outside of Holzer Files as well. Maybe they can tell you about that.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I do some mediumship events on Zoom now because I can't travel doing my live events. So it's been working, which is really, really great. So if anybody's interested in doing mediumship, coming to see mediumship live on Zoom, you can go to my Facebook. It's Medium Cindy Kaza. That's where I post all of my events. I'm also teaching mediumship. Also go to Facebook Medium Cindy Kaza to sign up for that. And then I have my little passion project called Diary of a Medium, which currently I'm not traveling to work on. But if you go to my website, mediumcindykaza.com, you can click to see some videos of places I've traveled around the world where I interview different healers and mediums and see how their experiences, work in their countries and cultures. So that's kind of a fun thing if you want to check that out.
Yeah,
and
sure. I've got a side project going on right now that was basically me and two of my good buddies, Ray Causey and Josh Purvis. It's called The Searchers. It's pretty much a project where we go locally and beyond and kind of show the grassroots of where I came from in investigating and kind of highlighting the history of some of these locations and some locations that people haven't seen before. And so I'm excited to be a part of that and doing that on my off time when I'm not filming for the Holzer Files. So you guys can check that out on Facebook. You can find us Searchers, and you can find me at Starring Shane on Twitter and Instagram and on Facebook.
Well, congratulations again on Season 2 of the Holzer Files. Everyone make sure to check it out October 29th on the Travel Channel. And thank you guys again so much for coming on. If any of you need to promote anything in the future, we would love to have all of you or any of you back on.
Happy Halloween.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, happy Halloween. Thank you guys.
Not only am I Dave Schrader, but I'm Dave Schrader of Travel Channel's The Holzer Files, and you're listening to Ghost Host Sophia Temperilli on liveparanormal.com. I feel left out. I wanted to throw myself into your mix of voiceovers now.
I love it. It's almost like we didn't leave break.